Greetings, children of the screen. Your friendly neighborhood nerd scum here, and I am joined today by...
I'm Luke.
Yeah, and guess what, guys? We just went and saw Solo. Well, I just went and saw Solo for the first time. He'd already seen it, so that's right. You guys are going to be getting a very special episode of What You Mean You Ain't Seen? Solo, where I'm the asshole who hasn't seen it. So yeah, I wasn't so sure about this movie. I didn't know if I was going to go see it. We waited a really long time for trailers, and pretty much everything we heard was negative. But then when he was on his frickin' honeymoon, he calls me and he's like, "Dude, have you seen Solo yet?" And I'm like, "Nah, not yet. I wasn't really that." He's like, "You need to go see Solo." And I was like, "Okay." He's like, "When I get back to town, can you come up there? We'll go see Solo. I'll see it again." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Let's go see Solo." He's like, "It's fucking awesome."
It is.
By the way,
awesome.
we can swear in these ones.
Oh, that's fucking great.
Yeah. So yeah, like basically, yeah, they got back from their honeymoon, where they got to go to like Star Wars land and stuff. It was really dope. And I came up to visit, and we went to see Solo. So when you first saw the movie, was it what you were expecting?
It was and it wasn't. Most of it, from what I could tell, from the trailers and stuff, I figured we were going to get a Kessel Run story because everybody wants to know the Kessel Run story. It keeps being brought up. It keeps getting rubbed in our face.
It's like the most Googled thing about Han Solo.
Absolutely. And, you know...
What the fuck is the Kessel Run?
So I figured that was going to be what it was.
Yeah.
And it was excellent. It was well done, well executed, great story. And then the thing that caught me off guard, though, was I wasn't expecting Han Solo to kind of back out from the spotlight at any point. But he's in like a, you know, dastardly team of rogues.
Yeah.
You know, like very strange scoundrels. And, you know, it's interesting to see all their different personalities and like kind of how Han learned from that.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting that level of depth from Han's experiences with other characters.
Right.
So, but overall, like it met my expectation as to what I thought it was going to be.
Okay. Right.
So,
I personally, it definitely exceeded my expectations because again, the movie had been out for a while, and unlike what he said to me, most people had negative things to say about the movie. But we'll get to that in a minute when I start bitching about all the complaints people have about the movie. But yeah, like, it definitely exceeded my expectations. I really kind of thought, you know, like most movies like this aren't very good, you know?
Yeah,
and
absolutely not.
And so far, in terms of Star Wars prequels, like, 1 out of 4 of them wasn't bad before this. Which, like, there's things in the prequels that we like, but in terms of whole movies, and then, like, Rogue One is decent.
It's okay. It's okay. We're definitely getting better stories from things like Rebels.
Yeah.
You know.
Absolutely. Which, like you told me beforehand, this movie feels a lot like Rebels.
It really does.
It almost feels like Rebels was supposed to be an Han Solo show, and then at the last minute they were like, yeah, why don't we just make a movie instead? And then they kept the core idea.
I think that's absolutely what they did. I really do. Like, the more we talk about it, the more it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, with, like, all these very, like, down in the dirt kind of characters, you know, from, like, backwater planets or from planets where there's just a giant inner city, you know? Yeah. You know, it really did feel that way. And, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing because Rebels is a great show.
Yeah. And this movie's kind of cemented in that same time period, around that general time period.
Absolutely. There's a lot of indications of that.
Yeah.
With, you know, like characters that you see in the background and things like that. You know, and I mean, like, why not? Like, that is a series where the entire premise is them doing, you know, like, cowboy kind of
it's freaking
stories.
Firefly in the Star Wars universe,
and it works, and it's brilliant. Yeah, and you know, it was really good. That I really think that Ron Howard may have taken some time to like watch all of Rebels when he came in with his rewrites and his reshoots, because he's like, well, these are the lessons we learned from this animated show. Right. Why shouldn't we apply that to, you know, a live action show? You know, and I think that was really great, especially, you know, in terms of like how the characters interact with each other.
Yeah.
Because in Rebels and in Solo, everything is very believable, except for one scene that I will
we'll
go
get
into
to it in a minute. Yeah. But yeah, it makes you, in a way that very few Star Wars films have done, it makes you feel like this is a real world that you could exist in, and
sure.
like there are so many like textures and like subtleties of real life that they include not only in the world but in the people and the interactions between people.
Yeah.
Like there are times where you can feel the things people aren't saying.
Yes, absolutely.
And it's not like on the nose, it's still subtle, but you get it because everything feels so lived in, you don't have to work for it.
Right,
you know?
right. It feels it's kind of like moving into a new apartment.
Yeah.
You know, like you know exactly what the layout is, but it's still taking you a little time to adjust to make it feel like home. You know, and I think that was kind of one of the big points of the movie is that, you know, we're not seeing Han Solo as we knew him in A New Hope. We're seeing his journey to that point.
Yes.
And I think it was beautifully done.
Oh yeah, it works really, really well in terms of like a development of the character. But I think that kind of moves us into the next question.
Yeah.
So next would be, what's your favorite thing about the movie?
Well, I'd say I have like 3 favorite things about the movie. 3. The first being, and I think everyone will pretty much agree with this, was Han and Chewie's first interactions.
Yes.
I think those felt more natural than some of like the Han Solo we got in The Force Awakens.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Because like one, like as Han is getting dragged away to be thrown in with the beast, the first thing he asks is, "There's a beast?" It's like it's excellent, because you know you're like, why do we have stormtroopers and blasters? Like, why do we need a beast for discipline? Like, we can just shoot him. Like, what's going on here? Anyway,
is this necessary?
So he gets thrown down there with Chewie, and you know, Chewie looks like he's been in an episode of like Hoarders, you know, like out in the back, like covered in mud, and he's pissed off. And you know, Han's doing his typical thing where he tries to talk his way out of the situation, and it almost doesn't work until he starts speaking Wookiee.
Yeah, very broken Wookiee.
My second favorite thing in the movie. Because hearing Han, it's like, oh my god, it adds like another layer of bromance between him and Chewie.
And the fact that he's so bad at it kind of explains why we never hear it in the future, because you just assume at some point Chewie was like, okay, look, just don't do that anymore. I know what you're saying now.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, like, it's so funny, and it's very broken. And it really gives a lot of like Han Solo flavor to the moment, you know, and Chewie figuring out, you see the wheels turning in his head, you know, everything's clicking into place. He's like, okay, I see what you want me to do. Let's go for it, you know, and that was just a great moment. And then they're both going to leave, and they finally have to make the distinction on who's the leader and who's, you know, the sidekick.
Yeah.
And you know, like Han goes one way and Chewie goes another, and they're both connected by the ankles with a big old chain. And then, you know, obviously Chewie just keeps going, and Han gets dragged along, and he has to stop and explain to Chewie why he should go his way. And I really felt like that moment right there really solidifies why Chewie always does what Han says, because like a few times in a row, you know, like he really, really got it right. You know, and Chewie, he's supposed to be kind of not all about it, but like he's like, well, things usually kind of work out after this point. Like, and that was a great you know, backstory fill-in for me.
It is. It like, you can obviously see why Han Solo would hang out with Chewie, but this movie does a great job of showing you why Chewie is so invested in Han.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like the brothers forged in battle. You know, like they hit all their trials together, and when it came time for Han to make the decision whether he was going to just basically order Chewie to stay or, you know, let him go as a friend, you know, like he wished the genie was free, you know, and like tossed him his, you know, like stun baton staff, and
he's just like, go get him.
Yeah, get him, Tiger.
Right.
And that was great. That was a great moment in the movie. That was a great moment for their relationship. I think it was like a really good thing, all in all the way around for Star Wars. My final thing that I really enjoyed was that Han shot first at the end.
fuck yeah. Spoilers, by the way, guys. If you're watching this and you haven't seen the movie, then fuck you.
Yeah.
There are spoilers in here.
It's been out for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, you know.
It's your fault, not mine.
I've had the movie spoiled for me like 6 or 7 times at the comic book store. So, like, if you clicked on a video that said, "What you mean you ain't seen Solo," and you're pissed that there's spoilers, fuck you. I'm probably going to leave this in, too. But, yeah, fuck you.
So, Han shooting first.
Yes.
Great moment. Specifically for 2 reasons. One, it was kind of a fuck you to George Lucas for making Han shoot last. You know, like, not cool, bro. This is where he learned it. This is why we know that he did that. Mm-hmm. You know, so I do really enjoy that aspect. But the main reason that I really, really like this scene is it's like a moment in time where, like, you don't know who actually shot it.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, like we were talking about earlier, you were saying, like, we expected, like, the pan out and to see Han standing there with a blaster and his typical, you know, blaster stance.
Yeah, like on the poster.
Yeah, you know, but it's not. That's not at all what you see. Like, you know, and, like, it just cuts to, you know, blaster hole appearing in chest, and Han just standing there kind of looking a little confused about the situation, but, like, determined.
That's why the moment works in my mind, is because it's what would normally be an audience cheer moment, where you're giving the audience something that they want, but Han Solo doesn't consider that moment a win.
No, absolutely not. Like, it would really be like if Frodo was the one who, like, killed Gandalf instead of the Balrog. Like.
Yeah, like, he has mixed feelings about the guy. The guy screwed him over, but at the same time, that's not something he wants to do, but he knows it's something he has to do.
Yeah.
And that is, like, kind of like I think you said yesterday, that's kind of the moment where we see the crystallization of Han Solo.
Yeah, that is the exact moment he becomes the character that we know and love.
Yeah.
You know, and I think they did a really, really good job of that, because I think they understated it just a tad, and I think that worked in its favor because, like you said, it's not a win.
Yeah.
It's not a win.
And I think that's kind of great. And yeah, that kind of plays into a lot of my favorite things about the movie.
Sure.
So yeah, my number one favorite thing about the movie is that while, like, it's the same reason I love Rebels, is that while it feels like a movie in the Star Wars universe, but it does not feel like a quote-unquote Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Even though, like, Rebels has tons of lightsaber battles and stuff, like, when you're watching that show in general, you feel more like Firefly or like a Western in space, which is kind of the original impetus behind Star Wars, but it's much grander and stuff, and this feels very real, and, like, and I felt like the fact that we don't see a lightsaber fight, and we don't see anyone really using the Force, and, like, we only see one lightsaber really in the whole movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
I really kind of felt that that was a great choice for this, not only because when we meet Han Solo in the first movie, he's like, the Force, it's a bunch of mumbo-jumbo bullshit.
Yeah.
So this, unlike the original, like, extended universe stuff, like, this doesn't have him encountering any of that and stuff, so it's great in that respect. And also, it keeps us from feeling like, well, this is the same movie that we got last year.
Sure.
So in that respect, I really enjoyed that of it. My other things that I really liked, we kind of talked about this a little bit with the Han and Chewie relationship, which is one of my favorite things. But in particular, the designs and the costuming and the effects for the Wookiees in this movie.
Oh, yes.
Not only is Chewie, like, do we see him do things we've never been able to see a real looking Chewie do.
Yes.
Like, even in Revenge of the Sith, when we have, like, Wookiees doing action stuff, it's mostly CGI, and there's not a lot of it. Whereas in this, you see Chewie in full-blown battles where, like, it looks like classic Chewie, but moving in a way that old-school suit never would have allowed him to.
Absolutely. It's, like, the difference between, like, the Sasquatch video from back in the day to, like, they made it look actually natural.
Yes.
You know, so, like, their arms swing at, like, weird, lengthy, you know, like, strides, but, like, they still, like, really seem like they have, like, all that Wookiee strength that we hear about all the time.
Right. And even though, like, the prisoner Wookiees that they end up freeing, we only get seconds with each of those characters, but not only do they all look as if they've been slaves, like, they're all emaciated and beaten, and their fur has patches, and it's all matted and shit.
Yeah, like they look like they've been working in a mine with not enough food for a long time.
Even whenever you see, like, all their faces are different. Like, they all have different sculpts. They're all unique characters, despite the fact that you see them for that long.
Right.
And that whole... I love that about it, but that kind of attention to detail really permeates the entire film.
Sure.
And also, both with Lando and Han, both those actors did a great job of playing the roles without going into, like, parodying or actually, like, Donald Glover and the actor who plays Han Solo, they have moments where they do the same, like, cadence or rhythm as the guys who played them before, but you're never like, oh, well, you're just doing an impression of Harrison Ford, or you're doing an impression of Billy D. Williams. Like,
right, It makes it seem like you're watching the boys become men.
Yes, exactly.
Like you're seeing the transformations in the characters, that you need to see in order for them to become who you know they are.
Absolutely. Especially considering you, out of the two of us, are definitely the bigger Star Wars fan. Like, I like Star Wars, but you fucking love Star Wars.
Yeah.
What were your least favorite things in this movie?
So, I think the main thing that I liked the least was the yacht. Paul Bettany's like ship, and it looked really cool.
It does. It looks cool.
But like in this world where everything is so practical, even the character is very, very practical.
Yeah.
Like he uses knives because he knows that they're gonna get the job done. It's very personal.
Yes.
He likes to strike fear into everyone. So like, why would you have a ship that's made out of like 30 single rooms stacked on top of each other? Like it all, like, I think it might have been like a choice to like make everyone feel very confined in each scene.
Yeah, like it's a tower. Like a medieval tower,
but I mean, with what we see at Star Wars, it's kind of fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, like we're used to seeing these very practical ships. Like the Millennium Falcon. Like exactly how it's set up, and it makes sense. Like you don't question it. Like you see, like Jango Fett's ship, the Slave 1.
Yeah.
And the Slave 2, Boba Fett's. Like, they're very, very cool. And you're like, yeah, that makes total sense as to how they're going to work.
Yes.
Like, they land in a weird way, but I mean, it's space.
It seems functional, yeah.
It looks like there's space for other stuff in there.
Yes.
Whereas, like, this ship, like, how many of those levels are, like engines and radiators?
Exactly.
And, like that doesn't seem, it loses a lot of its glamour.
Yeah.
If you have to get on an elevator and pass by, like a room full of like sweaty Jawas working their ass off to keep the thing flying.
And like, we don't really know how, that's the thing, is like, other than like the one floor we're on of that ship, I think, we don't know how the ship functions. So, like, unlike all the other ships that we've been very, like, we have intimate knowledge of, like, this one is kind of a mystery, which maybe is the point, and, like, we were talking, there's a lot of character reasons why they could have chose this ship, but none of those things make it into the movie.
Yeah.
Like, none of the explanations, because it's not the point of the movie, so it definitely feels out of place with the rest of the visual vocabulary of this movie.
Absolutely, and like there's two things that I immediately thought of when I saw the ship. The first one is that would be too easy to shoot down. Like it has a narrow attack profile, but if you just come at it from like a slightly different angle, you get just a huge broadside of like where there's no arms on it, like there's no guns because
it's a yacht.
Yeah, like
it's not built for speed or for like maybe it has good defenses, but
probably a good shield generator, but like. Still, like, if you're a crime lord, you would think that your ship would have some capability to deal with threats.
I think the idea is supposed to be just that he's so badass and he flies around in a giant knife that no one will fuck with him.
Yeah.
But again, have someone say that, it's helpful. Like, at least then we could be like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever.
And, like, the second immediate thought that I had was, like, he probably goes to Coruscant. How does he go to Coruscant in that thing? Like, how would he go to, like, these mega industrialized planets, where they have, like, they're just built out of skyscrapers at this point? Like, you just gotta take up, like, 30 goddamn lanes of traffic, one for each floor? Like, how does that make any sense? And, like, it doesn't work for me, especially in a world where, like, they very clearly show us in Attack of the Clones and, like, that, like, they're, like, the highways go through some of the buildings. It's like, Was it gonna do flop over and knock everyone's drinks off? Like,
yeah. Which again, like, do they have shuttles? Probably, but we never see them.
No.
You know?
And like, where is it gonna fit? Like,
yeah.
The biggest room that we saw was the one where they were having the party, and you know, it may have been as big as like the inside of a 7-Eleven.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I mean, I'm an avid Star Wars fan, as you said, and especially a Han Solo fan. Like, growing up, like, Han Solo and Indy were like my heroes. And, you know, Deckard, but...
Yeah. Whenever we were first roommates at one point, I had, like, 2 figures, a Darth Vader and a Han Solo, and I got one for me and one for him, but I was going to let him choose. And I was just like, so what do you want? Let me ask you an important question. Han Solo or Darth Vader? And he was just like, always Han Solo. Anytime, always Han Solo. Yeah.
Han Solo. It's great sculpted, everything. I love it. I treasure it deeply.
So yeah, if this dude can get through the movie with only like 2 kind of complaints that aren't like damning the movie, but just like, yeah, that wasn't so great, then that's pretty damn good.
Yeah, I mean, considering like we expected a train wreck, you know, like because they switched directors halfway through and they had to do a bunch of reshoots, rewrites, and you know, just all that kind of crazy stuff. Like,
yeah. There's like 2 things that like kind of pulled me out of the movie more than anything else. But okay, so number 1, main one is like I like the function of the character in the overall movie, but I fucking hate Lando's robot.
L337.
Yeah, and it's not even the fact that like, oh, she wants to free the robots or anything like that. It's the personality of the robot.
Sure. That personality was probably put in there to polarize the audience. You know, like, you're either gonna love her or you're gonna fucking hate her, and that's just what the character is. And I think they really wanted to express that because you know, like, that's a very human quality to have.
Yes. But it doesn't take over the movie.
No.
It's not the main drive. They do like the whole like her believing robots to be enslaved does come. Excuse me on that. Yeah, her believing the robots to be enslaved. It doesn't actually like. It does come back later in the movie, but it's not like the focal point of the movie. And like I said, that whole part of the story is really cool. And even them transitioning her character into part of the Millennium Falcon's operating system.
Yes.
Like, that's really cool, too, because it makes the Millennium Falcon more special, and it gives an explanation for why this old crappy ship is as good as it is. And I'm like, that's great. It was more just, like, the way the actual personality of the robot was written.
Sure, and for me, like, it didn't bother me all that much, mostly because they killed her before she got too annoying.
That's fair.
You know.
But before they killed her, I was like, oh, this movie has a Jar Jar, but it's a robot.
I agree. But I got past it.
Yeah. The other thing, and this is actually something that literally took me out of the movie for a split second, and then I did not give a shit, but people have been bitching about it to no end, and that's how Han Solo gets his last name. Like, yeah, it's stupid and cheesy and silly, but, and no offense here, but it's fucking Star Wars, man. It's great, but it's a little cheesy and a little silly in places, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
And, like, how... In the comments, give me your pitch if you hated that. Where would you have had his last name come from? Would you have him be born with the last name Solo?
You're not born with a last name Solo.
Because that makes so much more fucking sense.
And if you are, you turn into Kylo frickin' Ren.
Absolutely.
You know?
No.
And like, I mean,
that's why Kylo Ren exists. It's not because of all the shit we saw in the last 2 Star Wars movies. It's because his father's last name was Solo.
How could I be a Solo if I have a family?
Exactly.
I guess he does live up to the name.
Yeah, he does. Holy shit.
I never thought about that.
He is the true Solo.
Yeah.
So, will you be recommending this movie to more people?
Absolutely. I've recommended it to you. I've recommended it to any one of my friends who even remotely cares about Star Wars.
Yes. I would also recommend it to pretty much anybody. Like, I get why people could have some problems with little parts of this movie, but overall it was a really super fun movie, and that's kind of more than I was expecting. So
absolutely. I mean, I think if we were gonna get a live action movie for Rebels, like, it couldn't be better than this.
Right. Absolutely.
You know, and like, I think that was kind of like their goal. They're like, we need to make this better than Rebels, but maybe not as like engrossing as like some of like the main movies, because it's supposed to be a Star Wars story.
Yes.
And you know, it doesn't get a crawl for that reason, and You know, but I think it does a really good job of showing us like the beginning of Han Solo's hero journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
And like with his buddy Chewie, and like we get some more context for Lando and like where he's coming from in all of this in Return of the Jedi and in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
So as a whole, like I would absolutely recommend this movie. If you haven't seen it, you should definitely go see it while it's in theaters. It's a great ride.
Yeah, I would even go as far to say that like it's probably my favorite of the new batch of Disney Star Wars movies.
Sure.
Like, I mean, again, like I'm not. It probably because it feels so much like Rebels.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I really enjoyed it, and like even like in all the Star Wars movies that come out, I haven't hated any of the new ones. I thought they were all like decent films, but most of them I didn't leave the theater being like that was a lot of fun. It was more just like let me think about this. Okay, like if that and that. If 6 plus 2 equals blank, then the X divided by Star Wars. Yeah, this was a decent movie.
Yeah.
And this one I just went on my feel. I was like, yeah, I enjoyed the fuck out of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
The cast was freaking fantastic.
Great cast.
All the asshole... Here, okay, as a former, like, actor, let me tell you something. For all you assholes out there who are like, oh, well, he's got an acting coach on set. Like, oh, no, it's going to be terrible because he's having to be taught how to act while making the movie. Almost all of your favorite fucking A-list stars have an acting coach on every movie they do. It's because they're professionals who want to be the best in this very important thing that they're doing that costs a lot of money and a lot of people's like hopes and like are riding on it. Like he wanted to do a good job, so we brought in someone to keep his ass in check outside of the director who has a million other things that he has to be thinking about.
Absolutely. And like one of the things about that is like, for instance, like, nobody likes the sound of their own voice.
Yeah.
You know, nobody, if you record yourself and you hear yourself, you're like, oh, that's icky.
Yeah.
You know, like, so I'm sure that would be really difficult for any actor, especially having to portray such an iconic character.
Yes.
You know, like, how are you going to live up to Harrison Ford? And how are you going to, you know, make it your own at the same time? You know, because somebody else has been playing this character literally from, like, the age of, like, 30 to, like, how old is he now? Like 70?
I don't even know.
He's old.
Yeah, it's not like Batman or Superman. There's one Han Solo until now.
Yeah, you know, so that's a lot to live up to. And a lot of people say, you know, like, hey, you know, he didn't feel like Han Solo. And like,
it's like, well, he's not really Han Solo as we know him yet.
Yeah.
You know? So like, maybe like, take the stick out of your ass and, you know, don't take it so seriously.
Enjoy something.
Yeah. Like if it were a book or a comic book and he didn't look or act exactly the way you know Han Solo, you would just forgive it as character development. But because it's a movie, it has to be 100%.
Yeah.
And that is a totally unrealistic expectation.
Absolutely. And he made sure to go the extra mile.
He did.
To try to sell his character, to have somebody on the outside that, you know, he felt that he could trust.
Yes.
Telling him, he's like, well, you're doing a little too much of Harrison there. You need to back it off to yourself. Or you're doing too much of yourself. You need to put a little more Harrison in it.
Yeah. And I think I compared it to, like, the new Star Trek reboot.
Sure.
Where, like, the actors in that, the reason why it's so enjoyable is because the actors in it, they give you just enough of the way that the original characters or actors played it that it's reminds you of that you can feel that on the edges, but they bring enough of themselves to the role and their own personal stuff that you feel like you're watching something fresh and something different, and you can like them on the strength of their performances, not just the character.
Sure.
You know, and the guy all the actors in this who are playing characters who've already been established, that's exactly the way it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of going back to what I was saying before. But yeah, we definitely fucking recommend Solo.
10 out of 10.
Go see it with someone else or go see it solo. Definitely go see this fucking movie.
Please.
See it. Right on, guys. So thank you very much for watching. I really hope you liked this video. If you did, please leave a motherfucking like and share it with some goddamn friends. Also, if you're not motherfucking subscribed, please motherfucking subscribe and hit that goddamn little bell so you can get updates on all the dope content I'll have coming out in the future. Furthermore, guys, if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or Twitter, I will have the link for that in the description below. Again, thank you very much, children of the screen, and thank you very much for joining me, Luke.
Here for you, man. Always love talking about Star Wars.
Right on. So I will see you next time, guys. Nerd Scum. Out. All those fucking capes, man.
Dude, I know. Like
a whole closet.
A whole closet
of capes.
Yeah.
No, that's a what is the line? No, that's a specialty design or something like that.
That's a custom piece.
Yeah, that's a custom piece. Like just putting the fire out with it. God damn, that was great.
Lando, your dad would be disappointed.
There's no but now I get why people were like all the writers like there was credence when the writers were like, oh yeah, well Landell's totally pansexual because only a gay man would have that many capes. Batman doesn't even have that many capes.
No,
Batman's got a cape for fucking everything. Batman would walk into Lando's cape closet and be like, this is excessive. You know?
Especially with all the garish colors and whatnot.
I like them, but
I do too. I would probably have a cape room on the Falcon if I owned it.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Lando, fuck it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Billy D said.
Yeah.
Be cool.
And for the record, I don't care who Lando fucks. He's Lando. He can do what the fuck he wants.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter.
If he wants to fuck his protocol droid that eventually becomes the Millennium Falcon, that's fine. If he wants to fuck Han, I don't really actually think Han's that into it, but
no,
whatever, you know. I don't give a shit what he does. He's still Lando, and he's a bad motherfucker.
Yes.
And in truth, if Lando tried to fuck me, I'd probably let him.
Yeah, you just gotta remember one thing about Lando. He blew up a Death Star, and Han didn't.
Okay. That's fucking true. That's why he didn't need a bigger role in this movie.
Nope.
He's already outdone Han.
Yep.
In the future.
Yep. There we go.
Yeah, that's our tag.